my love. You've defeated lions, armies, and mighty warriors. Tell me, what is the secret of your incredible strength?
I can't say.
Imagine sitting across from someone you completely trust, someone who makes you feel understood, someone who listens to your dreams, your fears, and your deepest secrets. Now imagine discovering that the person you trusted the most was slowly studying you, learning your weaknesses, and using your emotions against you. This is what makes the story of Delilah so fascinating. For thousands of years, people have viewed Delilah as simply the woman who betrayed Samson, but when we look deeper, her story reveals something much more complex: the psychology of attraction, influence, emotional vulnerability, and control. How does someone gain so much power over another person? Why do intelligent people sometimes ignore warning signs? And what can Delilah's story teach us about human behavior today? The story of Delilah and Samson is one of the most famous stories in history. At its surface, it appears to be a simple story about strength and betrayal. Samson was a man known for extraordinary physical power, and Delilah was the woman who discovered the secret behind that power. But beneath the surface is a story about something much more human. It is a story about influence. Psychology teaches us that control does not always come through force. Sometimes it comes through trust, emotional connection, persuasion, and understanding another person's desires. Seduction, in a psychological sense, is not only about romance. It is the ability to attract attention, create emotional attachment, and influence decisions. Control happens when one person gains enough influence over another person's thoughts, emotions, or choices. Many people misunderstand stories like Delilah's because they assume manipulation always looks obvious. But in reality, manipulation often begins quietly. It can appear as kindness, affection, attention, or someone simply making you feel special. And that is why Delilah's story continues to interest people today. Because the real question is not only, why did Delilah betray Samson? The deeper question is, why did Samson allow someone else to gain so much power over him? To understand Delilah's behavior, we first have to understand the world she lived in. The story of Samson and Delilah appears in the Book of Judges, an ancient text describing a period of conflict between the Israelites and the Philistines. Samson was portrayed as a powerful figure, chosen for a special purpose. His strength was connected to a promise and a symbol of devotion. But strength does not always protect someone from emotional weakness. Modern psychology shows that human beings are not controlled only by logic. We are influenced by attachment, desire, fear of loss, and the need for acceptance. A person can be physically powerful and still emotionally vulnerable. One reason manipulation works is because people naturally seek connection. We want to believe that those close to us have good intentions. Researchers studying human behavior often discuss concepts such as emotional dependence, persuasion, and cognitive bias. A cognitive bias is a mental shortcut that can cause people to make decisions based on feelings rather than complete information. Samson may have seen Delilah through the lens of affection rather than caution. And this is one of the biggest lessons from his story. The areas where we feel strongest can sometimes hide our greatest weaknesses. Emotional influence is the ability to affect someone's feelings and decisions. Delilah's power did not come from physical strength. It came from understanding Samson's emotions. People often become easier to influence when they feel emotionally connected. For example, someone may ignore warning signs in a relationship because they are focused on the positive feelings they experience. The emotion becomes stronger than the evidence. Trust is one of the most powerful forces in human relationships. When people trust someone, they often lower their defenses. Trust allows people to share private thoughts, personal fears, and important information. In Delilah's case, Samson revealed something that represented his identity and power. The lesson is not that trust is bad, trust is necessary. But trust without awareness can create vulnerability. Manipulation often depends on identifying what matters most to another person. Every person has emotional needs. Some people seek approval, some seek love, some fear rejection. A skilled manipulator notices these patterns. The danger is when someone uses understanding not to support another person, but to control them. Another important psychological element is repeated pressure. People sometimes underestimate how powerful persistence can be. A person may resist a request at first, but slowly become exhausted by constant questioning, emotional pressure, or repeated attempts. This is why healthy relationships require respect for boundaries. The psychology behind Delilah's story appears in modern life more often than people realize. In relationships, manipulation can appear when someone uses affection as a way to control another person. In families, unhealthy patterns can develop when guilt or fear replaces honest communication. At work, influence can become dangerous when people use charm or persuasion to gain unfair power over others. In everyday life, we constantly experience persuasion. Advertisements influence what we buy. Social media influences what we believe. People influence each other through words, emotions, and behavior. The important difference is whether influence respects another person's freedom or attempts to remove it. One surprising fact is that Delilah's story is not only about betrayal, it is also about human vulnerability. Many people assume only weak people can be manipulated. Psychology shows the opposite. Intelligent, successful, and confident people can also be influenced because manipulation often targets emotions, not intelligence. Another surprising fact is that attraction can reduce critical thinking. When people feel strongly connected to someone, they may unconsciously focus more on what they want to believe. A third surprising fact is that control often begins with small actions. It rarely starts with a dramatic event. It begins with small compromises, small secrets, and small moments where boundaries are ignored. The danger of manipulation is that it damages trust. When someone discovers they have been controlled, they may struggle with confidence and relationships afterward. Manipulative relationships can create confusion because the person may remember both good moments and harmful moments. This emotional conflict can make it difficult to recognize the problem. The story of Delilah and Samson also shows the consequences of ignoring warning signs. Strong emotions can sometimes convince people to overlook reality. So how do we protect ourselves from unhealthy influence? The first step is self-awareness. Ask yourself, do I feel respected in this relationship? Can I say no without fear? Are my choices truly my own? Healthy relationships allow two people to connect, without one person controlling the other. The second step is recognizing patterns. A caring person listens. A controlling person pressures. A caring person respects boundaries. A controlling person tries to remove them. Another important step is developing emotional confidence. People who understand their own values are often less vulnerable to manipulation. They are not depending completely on another person's approval. A therapist might encourage someone struggling with these patterns to examine their emotions, understand their boundaries, and rebuild trust in their own judgment. The goal is not to become suspicious of everyone. The goal is to become aware, because awareness creates freedom. Now that we have explored the psychology behind Delilah's influence, we need to look at another important question. Was Delilah simply a manipulator, or was this story actually showing something deeper about Samson's own choices? Many people confuse manipulation with another powerful psychological concept, temptation, and understanding the difference changes the entire story. Manipulation and temptation may look similar, but they are different. Temptation is an attraction towards something. Manipulation involves intentionally influencing someone's decisions for a personal purpose. Temptation often comes from desire. Manipulation often involves strategy. In relationships, temptation may involve wanting something. Manipulation involves shaping another person's behavior. Emotionally, temptation creates internal conflict. Manipulation creates external influence. Both can affect decision-making, but they work in different ways. The story of Delilah has similarities with many famous examples throughout history and popular culture. Characters like Lady Macbeth from Shakespeare's works show how persuasion and ambition can influence decisions. In modern movies and television, characters who use charm, intelligence, and emotional understanding to gain power often reflect the same psychological themes. These examples remind us that influence has always been part of human relationships. The tools may change, but human emotions remain surprisingly consistent. The story of Delilah is more than a story about betrayal. It reveals how attraction, trust, emotion, and influence can shape human decisions. The biggest lesson is that strength is not only physical. True strength also requires awareness, emotional intelligence, and the ability to recognize when something feels unhealthy. What surprised you most about Delilah's story? Do you think Delilah was simply a manipulator, or do you think the story reveals something deeper about human weakness? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe for more psychology, history, and hidden stories explained. And if you want to discover more fascinating stories behind human behavior, watch our next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.